In the beginning, Hajime thought that her refined looks, long lashes, and serious gaze would make a beautiful picture. Kujou Rei and Awaza Hajime were otaku friends. Just friends. He absolutely could not see her as a member of the opposite sex because, I see, Rei said. She then continued, saying that the manga was super fantastic because the moment. At that point, Hajime thought to himself that the moment she opened her mouth, she became a total weirdo. Hey Kyojo, we should get to work soon, he said. Iwaza, look, Rei replied. She then held a fan against her face with an image printed on it. The face this heroine is making by Kitanamura Maru-sensei, she said. Hajime burst out laughing. Wait, my stomach is hurting. I get it, you're drunk, aren't you? Stop doing stupid things and get to work, he said. However, Rei held up a different fan against her face and said, The Crying Face Heroine by Makuri-sensei. Hajime laughed loudly once again. I said, that's enough, he said. He then snatched the fans away from her and added, Look, the storyboard I sent you 2 days ago, weren't we supposed to make the ultimate manga together? Rei remained silent. Hajime then reflected that they had sworn to create a manga together, with Kyojo Rei handling the art, and Awaza Hajime writing the story. Rei then stood up and asked, Do you want to try making a manga with me? It was a memory from the past when she had first said those words. At the time, Hajime had thought that everything had started about 3 months earlier when those words were spoken by his fellow member of the university manga club. Rei then spoke passionately about a particular genre of manga, saying that above all else, she loved pure love stories. They inspired and motivated her. She intended to draw every detail with the utmost care and dedication, from the wrinkles and clothing to everything else. That was why she wanted to borrow Hajime's skills, as he had placed first in a light novel contest. In other words, I want to create something that both the readers and the creators can enjoy. I want you to lend me your strength so we can make the ultimate manga, she said. Hajime replied, I mean, if you're okay with me. He then thought to himself that this was how they had ended up creating a manga together. But the scene shifted back to the present. All right, first, should we think about a pen name? Rei asked. Why would you start with that? Hajime replied. How about Harry Pharmacist Guy, she suggested. No way. That makes it sound like I'm the one who's like that, he said. Then let's think of an autograph, Rei said. I told you we can do that after it actually sells, Hajime replied. I can't draw it, Rei said. Hearing that, Hajime looked confused. I can't draw the scenes. I had no idea drawing scenes would be so difficult. I thought I could do it from my imagination, but it didn't work at all, she explained.
What about using video references or pose references? Wouldn't that work? Hajime asked. It's hard to find the exact angle I'm looking for, and besides, it costs money. It's because you keep demanding all those different poses, Iwaza, Rei replied. Hajime was taken aback by her words. However, Rei immediately shook her head. No, that was just an excuse. It's my own lack of skill that's preventing me from drawing it. I'm sorry, she said. Well, I guess I wasn't really considering the person doing the drawing either. I'll help you look for reference material and stuff, Hajime replied. Really? Rei asked.
Yeah, he answered. In that case, could you do this pose for me? She asked.
Like hell, I can, Hajime shouted in response. Why not? Rei asked. What do you mean, why?
It's going to be just you and me doing it. A guy and a girl doing this is a bit, he began. Before he could finish, Rei interrupted him. It will be fine. We're just friends. We're just friends who are also going to be business partners. We're only taking reference photos for drawings, so there's no ulterior motive. Well, that's true, but Hajime replied, It's fine. Neither of us should feel anything about it anyway. Rei said, Is that how it works? Hajime asked. Come on, let's do it, she said. The two of them then went ahead with the pose. While they were in position, Rei remarked, This is kind of fun, isn't it? Yeah, Hajime agreed. I'm taking pictures, she said. Okay, he replied. Rei began taking photos while giving him instructions. Lower your head a bit, she said. Hajime followed her direction. Hey, don't move, Rei added. He adjusted himself again as instructed. But Rei still felt that something was missing. Then she asked, Don't tell me, are you getting nervous? No, I just need to rest a bit, Hajime shouted. Then he added, I need to go to the bathroom because I drank too much. I'm going to the bathroom for a second. As Hajime was about to leave for the bathroom, Rei called out to him. Don't do anything reckless, okay? She said. I won't, Hajime replied as he walked away. He thought to himself that there was no way he could actually enjoy something like this. After all, he did not see her that way. Meanwhile, after he left, Rei began scrolling through the photos on her phone. I got a good picture. Iwaza is the only one I could ask to do something like this. I'm really glad Iwaza and I are friends, she said to herself. However, when she happened to look into a mirror, she noticed that she was blushing. At the same time, Hajime looked into the bathroom mirror and realized that he was blushing as well. Both of them were startled by their own expressions. Am I really making a face like this? This makes it look like I'm totally conscious of him, Rei thought. Likewise, Hajime found himself thinking the same thing. A short while later, Hajime returned. Did you get a good shot? He asked. Yeah. It looks like I can draw this pose, Rei replied. Is that so? Thank goodness, Hajime said. After that, Rei fell silent. Hajime then glanced at the pose they had just done and found himself wondering what it meant. Breaking the silence, Rei held up a drawing dummy demonstrating another pose. Help me with this pose next, she said. Then she added, it will be fine, right? Yeah, because I'm your friend, I'll do it. Of course I'll help, Hajime replied. The two of them then fell silent once more. As the quiet lingered between them, Hajime found himself wondering whether the two of them would really be able to remain just friends, as they always had been, until the manga was finally finished. The scene then shifted, and Rei held up one of the fans again while saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Awaza looked at her and asked, another joke? She replied, no, these are the sounds the character in your scenario makes. He responded, they don't sound that much. But since she's a pure and innocent heroine, writing her like that creates a good contrast with the trauma. Rei then admitted, my pen just won't move for this part. He looked at her in confusion and asked, She explained that when she had first seen the storyboard, she thought it was great. However, for some reason, she just couldn't draw that particular scene. So she asked him to teach her the appeal of those sounds. The scene then shifted. Awaza looked around and asked, so, why are we in a hotel? She answered that there was no way they could do something like this at her house. She then told him, all right, lie down for me. He did as instructed and asked, like this? Instead, she gently pushed him into position and said, no, like this. Once he was in place, she told him, come on, whenever you're ready. He immediately panicked and shouted, I'm supposed to make those sounds. She replied that since he understood the appeal of them, he would have to demonstrate it for her. He refused, saying, don't be stupid. It's only good because a girl does it. Like hell, I'll do something like that. The scene shifted again. Despite his protests, he awkwardly made the noises saying, I'm here, I'm here. Rei stared at him before bluntly commenting, you, gross. He started to snap back with, you little, but he stopped himself. She then asked, what exactly is so good about this? He explained that it only felt weird because he was the one doing it. What made it appealing was when those voices slipped out unexpectedly. Seeing someone genuinely feeling it was what really made it effective. She then suggested, so should we look for a girl who would do that? He immediately warned her not to try calling a delivery health service. After a brief pause, he muttered that maybe it wasn't such a bad idea. She quickly stopped him, reminding him that they were broke university students and there was no way they could afford to hire someone like that. He pointed out that she had been the one to suggest it. She quietly repeated, unexpected moments, huh? After thinking for a moment, she said, put your hand out. He did as she asked. She took his hand and placed it on her stomach, intending for him to tickle her. However, nothing happened. Confused, he pulled his hand away and asked, what are you doing? She explained that he had said it was the unexpected voices slipping out that made it appealing, but she couldn't make a sound in the first place. Seeing her disappointed expression, he asked, why are you looking so depressed? She replied that since they were already in a hotel, she needed to take plenty of reference material. Then she suggested, for now, shall we try the pose you mentioned earlier? The scene then shifted to both of them preparing for the pose. Awaza looked at her and asked, why are you like that? She replied, because this time I need reference for the scene. He hesitated before asking, even so, wait, is this video today? She nodded and said, yeah, I want to make it a dynamic pose. Now hold it a bit more, he simply replied. Yeah. She then instructed him, do it properly. I want to draw your hand too, you know. The scene then showed the two of them holding the pose. After a moment, he asked, how is it? She looked at him and replied, what do you mean, how is it? He clarified, is it up to your standard? She answered, yeah. He then remarked, so it's standard from the male perspective, huh? He looked at her in confusion. She explained that it was the same with manga and eroge. There was the male perspective and the third-person perspective, but there was no female perspective. He asked whether the lack of a female perspective was because there was no visualization. She confirmed that it was. From that perspective, only the walls, floor, and bed came into view, so it wasn't up to the standard. He concluded that, from the viewer's perspective, those details were unnecessary. She then suggested, all right, let's switch. He looked confused. The two of them switched positions. After checking the angle, she commented, it's not up to the standard. He started to say, you were, but once again, he stopped himself. She sighed and said, I've had enough of looking at you. Let's check the video. He complained. You're the one who said you wanted to do this, so what's with that attitude? That treatment? Don't push me. At that moment, they suddenly lost their balance and fell. As they fell, Rei instinctively ended up in that pose. The two of them immediately pulled away from each other. Awaza quickly apologized, saying, sorry, I didn't mean to. Ignoring that, she anxiously said, my phone. She picked it up, and after checking it, sighed in relief. Thank goodness it doesn't look broken. He suggested, shall we check if it was recorded properly? The two of them watched the video together. After noticing her silence, he asked, what's wrong? She replied that she had just been thinking the video had been recorded properly and that there were no issues. She remained silent for a moment before saying, "I'll fix the storyboard. It's a scenario that both of us think is the best. Otherwise, we won't be able to create a work that we can truly appreciate." He called out to her once more. Startled, she quickly replied, "No, it's nothing." He simply responded, "Is that so?" In her thoughts, she admitted that she couldn't tell him her voice had sounded good when it had slipped out like that. The scene then shifted as the two of them left the hotel. Awaza said, "See you later. I'm heading home." She replied, "Yeah, see you later." As they walked away from each other, they both wondered if they had managed to act like nothing more than friends. In his thoughts, Awaza wondered if, despite everything that had happened, he had managed to keep his instincts under control. He hoped she hadn't thought anything of him, and reassured himself that everything was fine. If he ever started seeing her that way, their relationship would come to an end. Even so, Ri really did sound like that. The scene then shifted to Ri back at her home. Alone with her thoughts, she wondered what she was doing. Even after everything that had happened, he hadn't reacted at all. Then she convinced herself that it simply meant he only saw her as a friend. Even so, her feelings remained complicated. The scene shifts as Rei questioned if Kawahara had truly made it, to which Kawahara replied that she was the one who had told him to do so. Rei then observed that it was a cup made from a paper cup and potato starch. Kawahara drew her attention to a syringe he was holding. This caused Rei to burst out laughing, though she quickly pointed out that it was actually the one she had used. Upon hearing this, Kawahara immediately threw the syringe away, noting that it was the way that particular one was also used. Rei then tossed the cup aside, calling it gross, but suddenly noticed that something had come out of it. This prompted Kawahara to burst out laughing again. Annoyed, Rei threatened to shove it into him, but Kawahara begged her to stop, warning that it would make him sick. When Kawahara looked back at her, he noticed she was blushing and trembling, which led him to ask what was wrong. The scene shifts again to Kawahara silently working on his iPad. He wondered to himself why the monochrome version looked about 50% better than the color one. Acknowledging that the art was expectedly excellent, though something still bothered him slightly. Looking over at Rei, he questioned what was wrong with her, noting that getting embarrassed by what had happened earlier was unlike her, and that she was acting rather strange that day. Addressing her directly, Kawahara asked why she had changed the composition of a specific scene when it had been much easier to understand in the draft. Rei explained that she simply did not have any reference images. Hearing this, Kawahara declared that they were going to take reference photos, arguing that if they compromised there, they would not be able to create a masterpiece that people could truly enjoy. Rei agreed. She then began taking out some models and figurines she owned. Kawahara questioned why she was turning the figurines around, and Rei admitted that having them watching made her feel as though she could not do it. Confused by her reasoning, Kawahara simply agreed. A brief silence fell between them before Kawahara finally asked if they were going to do it. Flustered, Rei sat down and asked for a minute. Kawahara watched her, thoroughly confused, and warned her that chugging it all at once was dangerous as she drank a can of soda. After finishing it, she looked ready to proceed. The scene shifts as Rei announced that they should finally get to it. Kawahara suddenly screamed, asking what this was, which left Rei visibly confused herself. She quickly ran back, asking for another moment, leaving Kawahara to think to himself that she was definitely acting strange that day. When Rei returned, she apologized for the wait. Kawahara questioned why she was wearing that uniform and why she looked even more embarrassed than she had a moment ago. Flustered, Rei turned away and said nothing. She let out a faint sound, prompting a confused Kawahara to ask what she had said. Rei explained that they simply did not have any reference material for skirt wrinkles. This time, Kawahara replied that while he somewhat understood the reason, he was still ultimately confused. Rei then screamed, admitting she did not know why either, but wearing the uniform was somehow much more embarrassing. She argued that there were times when wearing clothes like a uniform was better than casual clothes. Kawahara conceded with a questioning look, noting that it actually looked surprisingly good on her. Caught off guard by the compliment, Rei dismissed it, stating that it did not matter and that it felt too weird doing it there anyway. She suggested they move to the other room. The scene shifts as they began working on the reference photos. Kawahara noted that the current position should work well as a reference, but Rei remained silent. He urged her to stop being shy and hurry up, which caused Rei to scream that she was not shy before chugging another can of soda. Kawahara yelled that she was drinking far too much. Rei then told him to drink as well and shoved the can into his mouth. Seemingly energized, Rei declared that they should just do it and told him to bring it on. Kawahara pointed out that her try-hard act was cringe and completely unlike her. Ignoring the comment, an excited Rei asked if he wanted to try putting something on, handing the Cerberus over to him. The scene shifts again to show the two of them working on another reference. Kawahara burst out laughing, asking if it was really okay for them to completely forget about the reference shoot. Rei replied that it was fine and that they would eventually get to it. Suddenly, they looked at each other, Both thinking about the fact that it had been mentioned as being reused earlier, they immediately moved away from one another and sat on opposite ends of the bed, both thinking to themselves that they had completely sobered up. The scene then shifts, and Kujou screams, asking if they can use this. Awaza is left shocked. Awaza then checks the iPad and sees the manga Kujou has drawn. He begins describing it, noting that the heroine's personality really stands out. He says it is good, especially the clothes in the panel, which look very subtle. He also praises the hair, saying that although it is on the thicker side, the fluffy feeling works well. He adds that he particularly likes the depiction of water dripping from her hair and can tell that Kujou drew it while looking at good reference material. He then falls silent and thinks to himself that the model for the heroine was Kujou. That means everything displayed and depicted in the scene is based on her, while the other character's model is himself. She is trying to put both of them into this scene. Kujou then says that, with this, it is far from the ultimate enjoyable material they were aiming for. He explains that he even tried enjoying it with the pen in his heart, but it was no good. He concludes that the manuscript is rejected. However, Awaza says that he thinks he can enjoy it. Kujou is startled and tells him not to force himself. He explains that knowing the author already makes it difficult enough to enjoy, let alone knowing who the models are. Awaza then tells him to wait a second and starts walking away. Kujou asks where he is going. Awaza says that he will prove it to him. He will prove just how amazing the manuscript is. Hearing that, Kujou remains silent. Awaza then says that he is borrowing the room. Kujou is left startled outside the room. After a while, Awaza comes out and apologizes. Kujou says that he knew it. Awaza then admits that, damn it, Kujou's face keeps flashing through his mind no matter what. Kujou responds that Awaza's face popped into his head too. He then suggests that maybe something else is missing. Kujou asks what it could be. Awaza says that it is a kissing scene. Kujou questions him about it. Awaza explains that even though it is a pure love story, the kissing scenes are lacking. Maybe that is why. He says that he wants to see the pure love drawing Kujou was talking about. If he comes up with an incredible scenario and Kujou redraws it, it might work. Hearing this, Kujou starts blushing. Finally, he agrees, saying that if they cannot draw it, they have no choice but to do it. The scene then shifts, and both Awaza and Kujou begin proceeding with the scene. Awaza thinks that, even though they had agreed to do this, he somehow feels even more nervous than he did during the previous scene. He then tells Kujou that her face is red. Kujou replies that she simply drank too much. She reminds him that he wants to make the work better, right? Awaza agrees. Kujou then asks whether he thinks experiencing things is important when drawing manga. She continues, explaining that she believes it is important because it makes the work feel more realistic and convincing. Rather than having no experience, experiencing things broadens the scope of what an artist can draw. However, she says that romance manga is a little different. She believes romance manga is something that delivers dreams. To deliver those dreams to the reader, the author must also be someone who dreams. But Kujou then begins proceeding with the scene. Awaza becomes flustered and calls out to her. Kujou says her dialogue and continues, explaining that as long as she protects the virginity of her heart, she thinks it is okay to experience these things. By doing so, they can add reality to the manga, and perhaps they might be able to create a hybrid manga that delivers dreams. Awaza begins agreeing with her, saying that maybe she is right. The two then look at each other. Kujou hugs Awaza, and they look at each other again. Kujou then begins to feel dizzy and wobbly. At that moment, Awaza remembers that this girl is a dangerous person whenever she lets her guard down. Kujou finally falls onto Awaza. Awaza screams as he hits his head. Kujou then apologizes and says that she was drunk and does not remember anything. Awaza then explains everything, saying that after that Kujou threw up everywhere, the tablet died, and they did not have a backup either. That basically means it is all over. Kujou understands and then says that maybe it is for the best. Trying to draw this time made her realize that she is still inexperienced after all. She then hesitantly asks if, since she cannot draw it, Awaza will do it with her again. Awaza agrees. He then thinks to himself, just what is going to become of them?